All right. Okay, I got one more for you. We're going to do a cotangent to show you what that looks like, show you how to graph those, and then we'll go from there. All right, so again, first thing, we notice that it's a cotangent graph, which means we should be concentrating on the tangent and using those things from the tangent, right? So our amplitude is 4, our k value is 1, our period. Now remember, tangent is pi over k. So that means that cotangent also has to be pi over k, which in this case is just going to be pi, because pi over 1 is just pi. Right? Increments. Taking that period and dividing by 4. Phase shift. Taking what's inside and dividing by k. But again, k is 1, so it's just still going to be pi over 4. And we are going left because it's a positive. And then our vertical shift is +1. Okay? Labeling. All right, we got, let's move this over a little bit. There we go. Okay, again, use your increments to label your x-axis, right? You've got a pi over 4. That's what you're counting by. So there's 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4. Then you got your negatives. Okay, we have an amplitude of 4, so I'm going to go every line. Again, if you're not labeling the y-axis, you're wrong. So make sure you do. Okay, so we're going to list out, so let's do our table first. So let's do the theta values, the first ones. So our phase shift is negative, or left, pi over 4. So that's where we're going to start. Okay, then we've got 0, then pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, pi. Right? Technically, you don't need to list out all of these. Even if you only want to list out like 3, maybe 4, it's not a bad idea. You should list out some though. Okay. All right. Now we're doing tangent or cotangent, right? So we're going to look at the tangent pattern, which is that. Okay, but again, that's not the one we want. We want the cotangent pattern, which is undefined, then 1. Then remember, the reciprocal of undefined is 0. Okay. Again, if you think it's going to be, if you think it's going to be more confusing to write out the tangent and the cosine and the sine and then do reciprocals, you don't have to. If you want to just remember what the pattern is, remember the parent function points for each one and try to remember all 6, you can. Just sometimes the more you start to try and remember, the more you get mixed up. So again, you choose whichever way you want, right? And we're going to start here in the middle at undefined. So at negative pi over 4, we are undefined. Then at 0, we're going to be plugging in that 1. So it's going to be 4 times 1 plus 1 gives you 5. And then plugging in a 0. And then you're plugging in a negative 1. And then you're undefined. Okay, and then technically what will come next? A 1, right? Which we already plugged it up here, so we know that's 5. Okay, so negative pi over 4. Good, at 0, we are at 5. At pi over 4, we are at 1. At pi over 2, we're at negative 3. And then we're undefined. And then at pi, we are at back to 5. Okay, this side. Remember, follow the pattern if you want. You got 5, undefined, negative 3, negative 3, 1, 5, undefined. What comes next if you're just following that? Negative 3. Okay, if you can't follow that, then just remember to follow the pattern and go backwards, right? At negative pi over 4, we use the undefined. So at negative pi over 2, we're plugging in a negative 1, okay, which would put us down at negative 3. Okay, and then at negative 3 pi over 4, because at 0 it was undefined, negative pi over 2 it's negative 1, negative 3 pi over 4 we're plugging in the 0, okay? And when you plug in 0 you get 1, okay? And then the last one you're plugging in a 1 again, so you're getting 5. Okay, and then here you go. There's your graph. Cotangent graphs look almost exactly the same as tangent graphs, except they're just flipped the other direction, right? They're going down to the right, up to the left, however you want to say it, as opposed to the tangent graphs, which are going that way. So here, let's talk about this. So sometimes you guys get confused when there's only one point over here on the asymptotes. You struggle a little bit with what to do. Just remember that in between the asymptotes, like if you look at these, notice how these are all exactly the same, right? So this one should too. Does it make sense for this one to go like that? No, right? That wouldn't follow any sort of pattern that's happening here. So this one is just going to go up like that, just like happens on those two, okay? And there's cotangent, right? Hopefully that should be enough to help you guys out. If it's not, let me know and we'll put in some more.